Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us on one of the hottest days of the year. So it's great that you've taken the time out to join us today. We'll probably be around 30 minutes or so. We've got a really nice agenda. We're going to hear from Darren, who's one of our students, about his experience with us and how he's entered the project management industry and just his experience in general. So really excited to hear that. But just first of all, we're recording this because we'll send it out afterwards to everybody, and obviously for GDPR issues, if you don't want to be seen, I would turn off your video now, please, and we'll start recording. Great. So I'm John O'Cox. I'm head of marketing here at Learning People. I've been at the company for it'll be coming up to eight years in October. It's been a wonderful journey for myself so far. We have homes in Brighton, in Ireland, in New Zealand, in Sydney, in France, and we're growing at an exponential rate. We have over 30,000 students worldwide that we support and enable and help them to live better lives, I guess, by helping them transition into new careers or progress up the ladder of their current career. So today's session is all about project management. We're going to take a little look at the opportunities in project management and, of course, hear from Darren, our student, about his experiences. I think, firstly, I'd like Matt, who's our project management team manager, heads up the team at the Learning People. If you could give us a little intro, Matt, and talk about your experiences in project management.
Thanks, Jono. Just to echo Jono's sentiments, thanks everyone for joining us today. It's a day where giving up precious time outside for many of you will probably feel hopefully worth that exchange. But yeah, brief background. Like Jono, I've been with the Learning People 8 years. Last week actually was my anniversary. So yeah, 8 years. In that time, I was a project management careers consultant, and I've been heading up the team now for the last 2.5 to 3 years. Why is that important for you to hear? I think just because my story is quite typical. The majority of my team have been working with the Learning People for upwards of, say, 10 years in some instances. Average is around about 4 or 5. And it just gives you that reassurance that when you're speaking to one of my team about your individual career, you're speaking to somebody that has been an expert in their field, speaking to project management professionals at all stages of their career every single day professionally for, like, say, some people up to 10 years. In fact, we've got over 55 years worth of experience between the consultants. And if you think what's happened over the last 15 months particularly, their expertise, I would argue, has never, ever been more valuable. You know, some of you will be yet to have one of those consultations. Some of you would have had a consultation with one of them and maybe other training organisations out there in the online educational world. And I think anybody that's been speaking to on our team will validate the fact that the conversation you have with us is just so much more thorough, so much more tailored, so much more individual. And at a time where a lot of you are looking for security in their futures, their advice is king in this industry at the moment. But that said, what does the future look like for project management? It'd be amiss for me to not to address that. The reality is quite incredible, really, when you look at it. Opportunities are afoot in pretty much every single sector. If you take the main ones in the UK, such as construction, manufacturing, healthcare and retail, now some of those industries over the last 12 months have gone through hellish lows and they're now coming back with massive highs. Don't know if any of you have tried to buy any DIY products over the last couple of months or tried to book a tradesman to come to your house. It's pretty difficult at the moment because that industry has bounced back bigger than I thought people would ever realise. Same for manufacturing, retail, and pretty much every sector. And that's also important because it gives you the reassurance that there are countless opportunities out there to start a career in project management. It gives you reassurance that if you're considering progressing your career in project management, you're going to be the ones that stand out and have opportunities. The other great thing about project management at the moment is versatility. Some of you will not have a clue what sector you want to be a project manager in. You just know that you're suited for it. It doesn't matter. Worry about that when you're doing your courses, when you're speaking to our career services team. If you know that you're somebody that's seriously considering project management as a career because it's suited to you, it's suited to your financial goals, it's suited to your previous translatable experience, then just get stuck in, and then you could end up working for a logistics company, for a construction company, a fashion company, a retail company, it doesn't matter, because not only does project management offer you more security than most careers at the moment, it offers you the single most versatile career that I could possibly think of as well. So yeah, if you are in that process of speaking to one of my team, fantastic. We can discuss how to carry on that conversation later on. If you're thinking about what sort of advice you're going to get, I hope that brief description gives you a really interesting insight into the sort of conversations you can expect to have.
Thanks, Matt. I think I'd just kind of echo your thoughts about the opportunities in project management. When we think about where we see the opportunities, it is basically in every single industry. And even thinking about Euro 2020 at the moment, the amount of planning that would have gone into every element of putting on a tournament like that. We've got 12 different countries hosting with different stadiums, ticketing, hospitality, health and safety. There's so much that goes into it, and an exciting opportunity as well.
I think linked into that, Jono, as well, is you can think of anything that's going on at the moment. With adversity comes opportunity. And I know it sounds like a real sort of quite clinical way of looking at it. The conversations we're having with people that have done these courses and gone on to work as project managers on the vaccination rollout, people that have gone on to help struggling retail companies like progress onto online and sort of e-commerce. You know, it really, really is incredibly versatile. You're right, and quite exciting. It makes our conversations that we're having really quite interesting as well.
It does. No, totally. Let's bring in Marisha. Now, one of the big parts of what we do at Learning People is support you throughout your learning journey, and that's obviously with award-winning, globally accredited training, but it's understanding and immersing you into your chosen industry, and part of that is our career services team, and Marisha heads that up. Do you want to give us an overview on career services, Marisha?
Yeah. Hi everyone, my name's Marisha and I work on the career services team. I have 12 years experience as a recruiter. I've been placing candidates in a wide variety of roles, such as project management, and I've been with Learning People for about 3 years now. So we launched Career Services just over a year ago, and it was with the aim of giving our students the tools and the confidence to approach the job market and take control of their careers. So we'll take you through a 3-phased process tailored to your own personal career path, whether you're entry level or you're career changing, or you're looking to validate your existing project management skill set. So something that all of our current and future project managers need to consider is that the project landscape and skills required are changing. And as the job seeker, you need to be really selective of the companies that you're approaching and research and prepare thoroughly for each section of the process more than ever. You need to be asking yourself, is this a stable industry? Do I see a future in this company and their projects? And the beauty of project management, as Matt and John have both said, is that it exists in so many sectors. So at Career Services, we're on hand to help you analyse these opportunities and provide you with industry-specific and impartial advice and support. So, you know, one of the factors that you really need to consider is your skill set. You need to question, you know, what do I have to offer? Have you got the transferable skills and the agile certifications, for example, to work in a business where it's actually one of the main ways of delivering projects right now? And it's all about being ready and having those credentials to show that you've been keeping an eye on what is happening out there right now. And another important factor that is often really neglected is the networking piece. So more and more businesses are turning to their network right now to save on advertising and hiring costs. You know, who do they know that can do the job? And for you, it's all about building and nurturing your network throughout this time. So because you're going to need that network to start working for you in a really tangible way. And because that's where the hidden job market is, it's through people that you network with. So we show you how to tackle this during phase 2 of Career Services. And because there's no one size fits all, we'll give you one-to-one tailored guidance on your CV, on your LinkedIn profile in phase 1, networking, as I mentioned, in phase 2, and in phase 3, applying for jobs using multiple methods, not just job boards, how to spot a good recruiter, how to interview, and we'll support you all the way through to landing your role. We also run monthly interactive workshops that covers all of these key job search topics, and it's become a really useful session to attend for all of our students. So this is the level of support that you'll get, and we know what's needed from you to make your profile stand out from the competition, and we'll work alongside you to achieve this. That's it.
Thanks, Marisha. That's great. Yeah, the student workshops have been extremely successful. And focusing on, well, we have some industry thought leaders. We have, sessions on interview techniques over Zoom, or lots of different agendas, don't we? Was a couple of those a month that we're running at the moment?
We're running monthly workshops, and then we bring in guest speakers as and when we get someone to join, depending on what topic we're talking about.
So focusing on our student outcomes is just an absolute core priority for everybody at the Learning People, and getting you to demystify an industry before, we want you to enter an industry that's right for you first and foremost, and then take you on that journey, so then you're ready to enter the industry and help place you in that journey. And these are one of my favourite projects, I guess, hosting webinars, because we get to meet our students. And Darren is a student with us, so thanks very much for taking the time out today with us, Darren. Do you want to just start by giving a bit of an overview of how you came to the Learning People and enrolled with us?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Afternoon all. So my background is in the commodities industry. So I've worked in kind of IT type environments for about 25 years, primarily as a business analyst. That's my main background is as a BA. But the natural progression for a BA, for me anyway, was to look at project management. But it's very difficult to sort of transition within a company. So generally, companies tend to hire project managers that already have the qualifications. So I decided I wanted to sort of take that on myself during the pandemic, try and use some of that time productively. So I sort of went out into the market looking for different training providers, but most of them were kind of on-site training. They wanted me to sort of take maybe 7 or 8 days off work to sort of do the training. Obviously, that's time I'm not going to get paid. So that wasn't really going to work. So now I was looking for alternatives, and sort of Learning People came up. And I spent quite a bit of time looking into the sort of the way that the sort of structure was and how that would work and whether it would be a good fit for me. So, and then that's when I sort of had started lots of phone calls with various people in the company, going through the different packages that were on offer.
And what package did you enroll on, Darren?
It was a project management bundle I took, so it was slightly tailored for me because a couple of the qualifications on the main bundle I'd already done a couple of years previously through work. So it was a sort of slightly tweaked project management bundle, but it included the main ones that I needed, which was the PMP exam. That was quite a big recognised exam in my space, but also picked up the Agile Certified Practitioner, the CompTIA Project Plus, and the Change Management. So they're all really useful qualifications for my space. But yeah, so it was good because it allowed me to sort of start off with some of the easier ones and then progress up to the sort of the more sort of challenging PMP one at the end. So it wasn't kind of jumping into a really complex training course and exam without kind of being able to sort of build up to it.
Okay, and did you want to get certified as a particular reason for a job that you'd seen, or just to give you that knowledge to help progress your career? What was the reason?
I'd kind of been doing some project management, sort of small projects through work, but I'd never done the qualification. So I had sort of some background and some experience in it, but no qualifications to back it up, which kind of means it's very difficult to go into another job as a project manager if you don't have the experience and the qualifications. So the qualifications were important, but it was more of a way to actually to learn and to train rather than just to get a certificate. So I sort of used it as a way of learning parts about the project management industry that just weren't in the company I was working for. So a lot of the qualifications now are based on Agile, and that's something that not every company uses properly, or some companies still use sort of older methods for managing projects. So that's a good way of getting up to the level of the industry. Which means I could move from commodities into banking or into healthcare or whatever. The qualification will still be valid. A lot of the big companies now use Agile, which is what most of these qualifications are based around.
Okay, well, we'll get Matt in a moment to talk about some of the different qualifications. So where are you at now with your studies and your PMP course, Darren?
I've just finished it, actually. So I started off with the Project Plus, which was the easier of the qualifications. So that was a good sort of jump into the training piece. I went through the Agile Certified Practitioner, which was pretty tricky, but it was valid to what I was doing, so I could kind of follow it, and I passed that. And I've just finished up the PMP, which was the big one. And I got caught out, really, so I should have listened to you guys a bit more, but I basically done all of the training, and then the exam format changed over the sort of new year. So I'd obviously hadn't been tracking the emails that were being sent through. So I had to retrain, do the exam after Christmas, and I passed it first time, which was great.
Well done.
It was a really there's a lot of training. So there's about 35 hours worth of training to do, and the exam is quite a long exam. So you really have to sort of put the work in to pass it. But yeah, I passed it first time, which was great. So I'm really pleased that that was done. But it's it's definitely something you need to structure yourself to sort of pass it properly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, congratulations for passing first time. I think when if you're going to enrol onto something like the PMP, you have to be aware there is a lot of work to go into it, but you get out of it what you put in, and it sounds like you've put in a lot of work and reaping the rewards. So where are you currently working at now?
So at the moment, I'm working for a couple of different companies actually. So I'm working for a sort of an oil company, bizarrely. So I am sort of working on a project which is reworking their back office sort of finance systems. So I'm kind of doing some project management on it, but it's still kind of semi-BA, semi-project management. But at least it allows that I can pick up projects when they come available.
And do you see this as now you've got your certifications, you're going to move into a different role?
Ultimately, yeah, but I guess it's more of a transition than a sort of a jump. I don't expect to get the qualification jump straight into the project manager job, but it allows you to sort of, at the moment, it's more of a hybrid role.
Yeah.
So I can do the sort of business analyst, PM job, and then gradually evolve into the sort of more out-and-out project manager over time. But it's more future-proofing for myself, really. So if there's suddenly no business analyst work available, I've got another avenue I can sort of go down and start looking for sort of project management roles that I know I could do.
I think that's something that often gets overlooked, actually, is how we talk about transferable skills leading to a career in project management, how transferable the skills are that you learn studying for project management become in other roles. I mean, there was a recent report that came out last week, it was all over BBC and ITV news channels, that the number one sought after skill in any tech-based company currently in the UK is project management, above and beyond all of the technical side of it. So yeah, you're right there, Darren. If someone's work dries up, you are in prime position to pick it up elsewhere, that's for sure.
That's the plan, but I've worked with lots of other people that thought that being a good project manager was just about managing people. And when you go through the training and you realise there's so much more behind it. It's all managing the budgets, it's managing the scope, it's managing the requirements, the people obviously as well, but it's everything. There's so much more than just holding a meeting and telling people what to do.
Yeah, I think linked into that as well, Darren, is that if I went back during my 8 years experience, even 4 or 5 years ago, it was probably 75-80% of the people we spoke to were career changers looking to go into project management or a new career. It is easily now a 50-50 split. People trying to do exactly what you were doing there in terms of aligning yourself to best commercial practice. You work in companies, you run projects, you work a lot of the time to your own methodologies, and it's fantastic that you do that. That experience remains king. But having that seal of approval from having the initials PMP on your name, or having an agile qualification, change management, it just gets your foot in the door to have that experience recognized. But also, let's be honest, it does improve you as a project manager. You learn so much more that when you're put on the spot on an interview situation or with a stakeholder meeting, if you're fresh out of a PMP education, then that's right at the forefront of your mind. And you won't have that if you, like you said earlier, if you were convinced to do a 5 or 6 day course somewhere in a hotel by the M25, that you just wouldn't get that.
No, and it definitely makes a difference. I mean, I'm getting lots of job kind of agents approaching me through LinkedIn because I think they search for PMP with one of their recruiter searches. So I kind of pop up in a lot more searches. So I do see a lot more activity. So it certainly pays to have it there.
That's what you want, isn't it? People reaching out to you rather than you reaching out to them. I'm interested about, you go into the dynamics of the financing people. What's with the project management work that you do, Darren? What have you found the most challenging? Is it just people in general throwing up their own challenges?
Every project I've worked on has been different, but a lot of the projects that struggle are the ones that have been set up badly to start with.
Okay.
So they've already kind of agreed an end date without understanding what the scope is going to be. And then it tends to be a sort of a scramble to try and get as much done before the end date. And then the quality tends to get missed off the end. The testing is the last thing you do, so that tends to be the bit that suffers. But where you get the opportunity to actually structure a project correctly and to sort of think about scope and planning up front, you tend to get a completely different outcome.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It tends to be where it comes down from up high as to this is the date we need to go live and you need to do all of these things. But none of the people that have got that knowledge tend to be involved in the planning stages.
Okay. So can I ask you why you ended up enrolling with us at Learning People over somebody else?
Like I said, really at the beginning, a lot of the other options were kind of on-site training, which wasn't really going to work for me to take time off work to go and sit in a hotel. But I also like the idea of being able to spread the learning over a longer period of time. Things like PMP, I mean, it's a week's worth of learning, but I don't think you could sit down end to end and do that in 5 days and actually understand it all. So I preferred the idea that I could do maybe a day a week and sort of really try to absorb it a bit better and then come back and do some more the following week and just pace myself to actually make sure it's stuck. But also the price was really good because we're not paying for hotels and on-site training. You're kind of getting the same qualifications, but spread out and at a much better price. So yeah, and it just worked pretty well for the kind of nature of the work that I do.
How have you been affected in your job through the COVID pandemic?
Not too badly, luckily. It's all been home working for me, so it's been sort of remote. So I've carried on as I was before, but I found I had a lot of extra time where I wasn't commuting backwards and forwards. So I wanted to use that time for something productive rather than just flicking onto the TV or whatever. So that was my time up for sort of studying. So I'd spend a couple of hours a day just going through some training modules, reading up around it to try and make sure it's stuck in my mind. Yeah, just trying to come out of this year with something better than just a wasted year, really. So yeah, it's been really good for me.
And how much of your time do you anticipate when you're actually project management will be sat in an office and actually out in the field?
For me, most of it would be office-based. Just the nature of the companies that I work for tend to be office-based. But yeah, I tend to work with people that are all over the world. So a lot of my development teams are based in India. So I'm kind of working with people all over the place, but it does tend to be based in the office for me at least.
So a big part of what you do is obviously logistically managing people from all over the world to get out of them the best that you possibly can.
I think that's just the nature of projects these days is, you know, it's distributed teams. So you've got development teams in India. We've got kind of offices in the US and Singapore potentially for different hours. So yeah, and it is understanding how to sort of work a project with different locations, different backgrounds. But yeah, it does cover a lot of that on the training as well, which is useful.
So obviously we've got a lot of people with us today looking to enroll with us. What advice would you give to anybody who's thinking about enrolling?
From my side, it's been a good experience for me. Like I said, I did a lot of homework on sort of the Learning People, and I looked into the qualifications. So it's worth doing that. It's worth asking questions, and it's worth having a really open, honest conversation with you guys to sort of explain where you are as a learner and what you want back. It may not fit everybody, but you know, it certainly worked well for me. And I think it's an investment in yourself. So you know, if you wanted to sort of try and future-proof, I guess, your own career, make sure you've got some skills that allow you to move into other roles if they become available. It's not massively expensive for what it is. I mean, you can spend a lot of money on training courses, but ultimately this package or the bundle that I bought was fine for what I needed. And the quality of the training was really, really good. So once you see the demo of the portal, you can see for yourself how well structured the learning material is. And there's a lot of data on there. There's lots of books. There's lots of other background stuff behind it. So yeah, so my advice would be to sort of ask questions, certainly sort of have an open conversation and have a look at the platform if you're not sure. Because I think once you see that, it will make your mind up. It certainly showed me that it was a really well put together product.
I think that, Darren, what you're saying there about asking questions is something that I'd implore all of you on this phone call to do, or webinar, sorry, on your next phone call. The reason being is so often is the case people they do have doubts, they have concerns. It is a big commitment, time-wise, financially-wise as well. You know, let's not beat around the bush, but like Darren was saying, it's an investment. But too often people don't ask the things that they've really got on their mind. And like Darren, we were talking beforehand, like you and your consultant Pete, you did have a lot of concerns, a lot of queries, a lot of questions, and they're all important to you. And other people on this call will be thinking the same thing. So if you've got a consultation booked in, or you've got a follow-up call booked in with one of the team, write down those questions. You know, take the phone call when they try and call you back and ask the questions, rather than just thinking that we don't have an answer to it or don't have a solution to it. 55 years combined consultancy experience between us is that the chances are you won't ask us a question that we haven't heard of before. It's chances are that any problems that previous students have had way back, we've alleviated and improved our services, so people like Darren get the experience they do. So my advice linked into that is definitely ask as many questions as possible. Pick up the phone on the consultation call and ask those questions.
And that's a lovely segue into question time. So we've been sent questions from the guys on the session today as they registered. So let's bring in Marisha, our careers experts. This comes from Molly Marisha. And she says, how do I kickstart my career towards project management from being a manager in retail?
From being a manager in retail. Okay, so we tend to work with a lot of students transitioning from retail to project management. So it's a really good question. I would normally recommend that you do your first exam so that you have a deeper understanding of what project management is all about. And then we would start working with you in phase one, which is looking at your work experience and how your skills as a retail manager are relevant and transferable to project management. And literally a couple of weeks ago, I was doing exactly that with someone that had loads of experience within retail, and she was working projects, but it wasn't official. And she ended up interviewing for a junior project management role, and the company asked for her to come back to interview for a project manager role, and she got the job. So they saw that how relevant her skills were and how she was able to talk like a project manager about the projects that she's worked on, and yeah, she got the job. So sometimes it's all about how you apply and communicate what you've done that makes a real difference as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to hear success stories like that, and we're just placing more and more students each week, and we're producing a weekly blog at the moment about students that we've placed into roles. So if anyone wants to check that out, you can link through from our homepage, and that's updated weekly. Next questions, maybe for Matt, maybe for Darren, from Ali. How long does it take to get certified? So I guess for you, Darren, how long did it take to get certified?
There's multiple qualifications really. So the first one I did was the Project Plus exam, which was one of the ones in the bundle. That was like an introductory level qualification. So I think I did that within a week or so of training, and probably 2 or 3 weeks. That got me the first certificate. The other one's progressively harder. So the toughest one is the PMP exam, and that's you have to do the 35 hours of training. Which is all set up. It's all structured for you online. So you literally just go through session 1 to 35 and cover that. But yeah, that took me probably about 6 weeks or so. And that was working at a reasonable pace. I mean, I could have slowed it down. But yeah, so probably I was doing maybe a bit a day, maybe an hour or so a day for 6 weeks, and then did a couple of mock exams. So, but yeah, when I signed up, it was like an access for a year, which is plenty of time as long as you kind of plan yourself and don't let it all sort of drag on to the last month and then sort of scramble at the end. But yeah, you can get up and running pretty quickly, definitely. Yeah, so yeah, a year is plenty, but you can do stuff much, much quicker.
Yeah, I'll add to that as well. Darren, that's a fantastic experience that you've had, and that's brilliant. It just highlights the fact that self-paced learning should never just be taken as a gimmick. Everyone has different lifestyles. You know, nobody has more time next year than they always think they do, and that's why every one of our students is given a 12-month license. You know, some courses we've had some people complete things like Prince 2 Foundation and Practitioner in a matter of a fortnight. Some people have taken the full 12 months. You know, some people have needed longer for whatever reason. It all depends on what courses your consultant recommends. One of the questions they will discuss with you on the call should always be around how many hours a week are you looking to put into your training, and give you a realistic time frame. It really is so unfortunate when people go away and they look at other adverts online saying, oh, I can get all of this done in 7 days. If you can, you won't remember it. You know, that's the point. And education is different than revising for an exam. And, you know, it's one of the things that employers love to see. If they know that you studied through the learning people, they'll know what the process you went through. You've gained the qualifications through merit and education, rather than through just being told what the exam is going to consist of and how to pass it at the end of the week. Yeah. So, yeah, you're given a full 12 months because it's designed to work around your life rather than your life work around your education.
Yeah, it's very unlikely you'd be able to show up and do a 5-day solid training in PMP and pass it unless you already knew most of it beforehand. But yeah, that's certainly my experience, is that, you know, I wouldn't have passed it if I'd have just signed up for one of those courses and done a 5-day in a hotel, because there's too much there that I just didn't have the experience or the reference to sort of equate to.
Exactly. And this is one of the reasons why the PMI insist on having a certain amount of hours of education prior to anyone sitting the exam. They've also just changed the PMP format and heavily restricted the number of resellers that can actually provide anyone in the UK with PMP training. And we're one of the select 2 or 3, I think it is. And one of the reasons is that if you complete the training, you do all your steps and you get through to the exam, the current first-time pass rate on the PMP with the learning people for 2021 is 100%. We've not had somebody fail their PMP exam this year. And that's something that, when it first came out in January or February, like, oh, that's nice, small snapshot. We're 6 months into the year. You know, it's a real highlights the importance of the help you receive and the quality of the education you get as well. So, yeah, definitely echo Darren's thoughts there.
Sticking with you, Matt, this is from Dan. It's an interesting question. Dan says, how transferable are project managers between sectors? Could a project manager in hospitality move into construction, for example? I'm guessing the theory stays the same, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You'll notice that when you're doing something like a PMI, be it a PMI course, be it change management, be it Prince 2, be it Agile, Six Sigma, you'll notice that they're all taught in very non-industry, non-sector specific ways. And that's because the nature of the role, like Darren was saying earlier, about dealing with people, budgets, stakeholders, timescales, risk assessment, the projects can vary. It really, really doesn't matter what industry and what sector you're in. We get people that jump from sector to sector all of the time. Marisha, you'll know that firsthand. I'll never forget somebody that went from being a project manager with the FA to working as a project manager with Royal Mail. You know, completely different, but it remains the same. And that's something that you guys need to be really aware of at the moment. Is experience is king. If you're in an industry and in a sector where you've not been affected by the pandemic, you're continuing to grow, it makes sense to stay within that industry and progress as a project manager. But if you're in an industry that's had a bit of a hit, then don't worry. You know, your skills, your ability to manage 300 people weddings, and then transfer that to working in, you know, the public sector remains king. It's about your track record as a project manager, about how successful your projects have been. The actual nature of the projects you're working on and the industry doesn't matter a lot.
Yeah, I'm just conscious of the time. I've got a couple more questions. Marisha, this is from Susan, and Susan says, what advice would you give someone who's got plenty of experience of working in a professional environment? She's got 15 years and has managed projects, but not with a formal PM qualification, who is looking at a career change into project management.
Go for it. It's similar to what I mentioned earlier. There are just so many jobs that require managing projects. And it really does help first to get through some of the qualifications that you can speak the language of a project manager. I mean, the amount of students I've spoken to, and maybe it's a bit too soon and they're still at the very beginning of their studying, and they're looking at their CV and they're like, how do I transfer all of this across? I know that what I've been doing is really relevant, but how do I do it? And we really do work together on that when you're ready. There isn't a set time when we do it. It's when you feel sort of confident to start, transferring your skills across. And we'd apply this in LinkedIn, your CV. We'd sort of optimize it, make sure that all the correct keywords are in there. And then it's all about how you present yourself in interview and how you speak to professionals out there with the sort of the language of project management.
Which is where your expertise comes in and supports our students.
Think about it, guys. Like any company that you work in at the moment, if you're working in an organization, think about the job titles of people around you. How many of you actually got project managers employed? I bet you've all got people that work in operations, that people are working in IT, people that are working in HR, people that are working in finance, you know, people that are working in sales, whatever it may be. There's project management is everywhere you look. It's just a collective umbrella term. So if you've worked in any of those roles or have fancied working in one of those roles, that is project management, and a project management certification will help you get into that role as well.
Darren, now you're, say, officially certified with your PMP, do you analyse projects? So maybe look at the vaccine rollout and where we are with that, whether we think it's good or bad. Do you look at that and think, I would have done things differently?
I'm glad I wasn't involved in that one. It's a bit of a project, yeah. But yeah, you do sort of start to look at the way, because, you know, obviously, you know, when you're outside of a project, you just see the result. But then when you start working backwards of all of the planning and everything that needs to go into these projects and all of the risks that they've had to manage all the way through, yeah, you do kind of, you do see things through different eyes, I guess, when you kind of understand what someone's had to do to get there. But you also kind of appreciate, I guess, that projects aren't always that pressured.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it must be a lot of pressure for the guys that had to manage the rollouts and those kind of things. But yeah, it definitely, once you've got a little bit of understanding of how those parts work, it's you do sort of have a bit more sympathy for the people doing it.
Do you feel pressured in your role when you've got to hit a deadline?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, and it's difficult, I guess. It's more just because you've got dependencies on so many other things. So you might have the best plan in the world, but things do go wrong. People go sick, people leave, you know, suppliers let you down, and I guess the pressure can come from any different place. But it's about understanding how to plan for those things and how to mitigate them and how to sort of manage those risks, and then how to be honest, I guess, and to communicate when there's a problem. So I've worked on plenty of projects in the past where people have tried to sort of cover up and sort of make best, but then all that happens is it ends up being a problem later on, down the line. So I guess a lot of the qualifications, a lot of the PMP, it talks about integrity and how to sort of manage things that aren't going the way that you'd expect them to, how to communicate. So yeah, it's really a good kind of launch pad into being able to handle projects in the real world rather than just an academic exercise.
I'm sure we can all relate to personal experiences when we could have been a bit more transparent and it would have had a better outcome. But that's really fascinating. Final question then from Thomas. Maybe a few, Matt. Do you need a college degree in order to get certified or employed?
No, you don't. It can accelerate your eligibility for something like the PMP. And to do the PMP, you need to have either 5 years experience in the industry within the last 8 years or 3 years experience and a degree. But absolutely not. No. It's a weird one, Johnny, because we get asked it all the time, people that are considering maybe even doing a project management degree over a professional certification. So maybe I'll summarize it that way. An academic qualification is about knowledge, and it's generic, and it differs depending on the institution that you're taught at, whether what university, what college it is that teaches in their syllabus. The syllabus is often revised maybe every 5 to 8 academic years. And project management moves a lot quicker than that. The qualifications we recommend now compared to 18 months ago are vastly different for a lot of people. Don't worry, Darren, your collection still remains king for what you're doing. But on the whole, a professional certification will take knowledge and align it to an industry best practice. If you're Prince 2 certified, that means the same in every single country that recognises Prince 2. There's no interpretation about it. Same with PMI qualifications, Six Sigma. So professional certifications arguably carry a lot more weight. They're definitely the perfect way to complement an academic qualification. That's why September is one of our busiest times of year with university graduates. They're looking to move into the job world and they want something to back up their degree. And when you're on a job board and you're looking at qualifications, you'll more often than not find the names of things like Prince 2, Six Sigma, PMI above and beyond a degree, or at worst they'll ask for a degree or equivalent. So I would say the majority of our students are people that come from a non-academic background in that respect, if not more, actually, thinking about it.
Yeah. Guys, I think that's probably enough for today. It's been a really fascinating session, Darren. I've learned heaps, and I'm sure everybody else here has as well. Thanks so much for joining us. I just finally, Matt, do you want to tell people where that they can get in touch with us again. And one area that we didn't touch on was the PMI are changing their syllabus in a way. And I think we're one of the first education providers or digital schools to release online boot camps for the PMP. I'll just share my screen with the details, Matt, if you could discuss that.
Yeah, that is correct, Johnny. That's what I was alluding to earlier when I said that we're one of a handful of what are called ATPs, authorised training providers, that support the new PMP syllabus. You need to complete a certain series of online boot camps to complement your learning. Again, it's just adding to the prestige of the PMP, what you need to do in order to qualify for it. They're basically removing that whole aspect of being able to do an online course in 4 or 5 days, or just a quick boot camp in a motorway hotel, So yeah, if you've got any questions about that, speak to one of our team. If you are one of those people that are mid-consultation, you've been sent over a prospectus, you've got any questions, just pick up the phone when your consultant phones you. You recognize their number by now. They'll want to ask you follow-up questions. They want to see what research you've done, that sort of thing. So pick up the phone, any doubts, concerns, or you just want to get on with it. They're the people that can accelerate your getting started on the course. If you're one of those people right now that have felt this is right for you and you're considering this as a career path, you're yet to have a consultation, please leave your details. Either phone us on that number, you can email me directly, you can leave your details on our website. In fact, if you're attending, you probably already have. So we'll give you a call either later today or tomorrow just to answer your questions and take the next steps. But if you are umming and ahhing, go for it. If you're sitting there and naivety and complacency is kicking in, thinking, oh yeah, but we'll see what happens with the economy, jobs are booming back. Don't be that complacent. Your qualification will accelerate anything that you're looking to do, be it your current job search or your long-term career goals. It is that certification that remains king.
Great, thanks, Matt. Marisha, thank you as ever, and Darren, thanks once again.
Bye.
See you. Thanks once again, Darren, and keep us updated on progression. It's been great to hear your story so far, and also special thanks to Jenny who organises these seminars as well. So great, we'll send this recording out if you've missed anything, hopefully within 24 hours, and look forward to hearing from you soon. Cheers everyone, have a good day.